You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today we're going to bring you a show that's just a bunch of topics that are in the news today. One is this whole Epstein cover-up. We can't seem to get around that. Everybody's talking about it, so we're going to give our opinion from a liberty perspective on this. Then we're going to talk a little bit about a recent court stay on a Planned Parenthood cut in funding from the recent Trump budget bill. And then finally, we're going to hear some racist grift from CNN where Paul Bowman tells us a little bit about some of his ideas on how the N-word impacts his health. But before we get
not only his health, but the health of other Black Americans. So
that's true. So before we get to any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California, who would be sitting in our black screen right now is our Screaming Eagle of Freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host. There we have him. We just lost him. So, well, let's get to our Liberty quote today. So, we always start off the show with a quote that's somewhat related to what we're going to be talking about. And this time it is going to be Howard Baker, who was a Republican senator. He had been both the majority and the minority leader during his time in service. And he even sat on the Senate Watergate Committee, which is kind of interesting because it dealt with a cover-up with respect to a president, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about a little bit with the Epstein files. But he was also, too, the White House chief of staff under Reagan, so he's got kind of an interesting background. But his big observation, and it really comes from that time when he was on that Senate Watergate Committee, rather. And that was, it is almost always the cover-up rather than the event that causes trouble. And, certainly the event with Epstein was a big deal, apparently. But now we're being told that that's not happening, and it's almost absurd to the degree that they've told us there was something, and now they're telling us there's nothing. So this cover-up is almost comical, I guess. And anyways, it would certainly seem like, I guess, Mr. Baker, it would be interesting to hear his thoughts on this today if he were still alive. And I think he's probably not, but I'm not 100% sure.
He's dead. He's dead. He's dead.
Okay. Yeah. So anyways, so what are your thoughts on this quote, Leon? The cover up rather than the event?
Well, I mean, it's throughout history, the cover up has caused a lot more problems for politicians, because if you really look at the Watergate scandal, I mean, it is true what they were doing was illegal. They broke into the Watergate hotel, and they were looking around and trying to do whatever, trying to steal information and all this other stuff that they were trying to do. But what really happened was after the people, G. Gordon Liddy and all of them, got arrested, then the cover-up started, and then this became, as a matter of fact, I think it must have been Bob Dole or something who said, "Oh, this is just going to be a three-day story, and it will all blow over." And it turned out to be one of the greatest scandals in American history because of the attempted cover-up, and it ended with Richard Nixon's resignation. But the point of the matter, I think Howard Baker is absolutely correct. It's the cover-up that causes the problems. And what we're seeing right now going on, we have two things going on right now. We have this Epstein thing, and I don't know where that is going to go. I'm really having some problems with that. We speak about that shortly. And we also have this Joe Biden health issues that was going on during his presidency, and now they're trying to cover that up too. Because actually today, the Joe Biden's doctor was supposed to testify, but he went there and he took the fifth. So, I mean, I don't know why a doctor who was doing his job and serving the president of the United States, why would he need to plead the fifth? This sounds kind of odd to me. So So yeah, I think Howard Baker is absolutely correct. It's this lack of transparency of trying to um, to hide things and distort transparency that leads to the real difficulties that politicians do have.
Mm. What about you, Tim? You got any thoughts on this?
My congratulations to Leon for seeing my issues here and letting me in. Thank you, Leon. Yeah, I'd agree with the quote. It always used to amaze me how American politicians would try to cover up their various dalliances, whereas Italian and French politicians, first of all, they would never really talk about it out of respect for each other, because everybody was having these little dalliances with other opposite sex people. But the Americans, would go just out of their way to cover it up, and it always made everything worse. So I was, used to think, why don't they just do what the Italians do and just admit it and just go on? Then it just loses its whole power if you just admit to the truth. So anyway, I agree with Howard.
Yeah. One of the things that strikes me about all this is that, Howard Baker was kind of an expert at what was happening during the Watergate, hearings, which was the biggest cover up of their time. But if you think about what they were covering up, it's nothing compared to the stuff we're talking about today, whether it's Biden, the auto pen, and whether or not he was cognizant while he was in office, and then Trump potentially covering up for a pedophile that may have had implications into a honeypot scheme of all kinds of movers and shakers in the world. So this is, I guess the scandals of back then were relatively modest compared to the scandals of today, it feels like. So we wonder if they would have just blown their tops if they would have heard about some of the stuff. I mean, you almost think of that too about the founding fathers, right? They look at the debt today, and I mean, my gosh, could they have even imagined what $37 trillion was?
Exactly.
So probably most of them never even thought of the number a trillion before.
Yeah, probably. I mean, until recently, I didn't realize it was 1,000 billion, and a billion was 1,000 million. I mean, so when you're talking a trillion, you're talking a ton of money. It's like, and we're 37 of them in debt right now. So not good. But hey, we've been rolling along. Hey, just like, Austrian economists have been warning about the sky is falling. The sky is falling like a bunch of Chicken Littles, but it hasn't fallen yet. However, it's still early.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into this whole Epstein story, because I tell you, this is really capturing the world by storm. I mean, everybody has been talking about Epstein for the last, I don't know, what has it been, 5-6 years now? I mean, he supposedly committed suicide during the end of the Trump administration. He was in prison. And, it was, they'd said at the time it was a suicide. He was in a prison that was supposedly under suicide watch, and, all kinds of cameras and everything else supposedly working. And suddenly the guards were missing or asleep or whatever. And
they were on Amazon. They were purchasing stuff on Amazon and falling asleep conveniently.
Yeah, so just all kinds of a strange confluence of events, and this Epstein character who people have accused of, I guess, luring all kinds of people like Bill Gates and others onto his Lolita Express, to his little private island, where I guess it was alleged all kinds of debauchery were occurring between underage people and wealthy people. I mean, there was even a picture of Bill Clinton in the Monica Lewinsky blue dress hanging in Epstein's apartment. So, I mean, the connections, this guy, and Bill Clinton had something like 20 or 30 rides on Epstein's jet. So there were all kinds of connections between Epstein and powerful people. And suddenly it was like, okay, they're charging this Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein for this dealing, supposedly trafficking in these underage people to rich people, and now there's apparently no client list, and so that's what this BBC story is saying right here. There's no client list, even though they've been talking about it ad nauseum for 4 something years. So anyways, I do have a little video that is going to show the worst of it. And this is Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, talking about the supposed evidence that she was getting ready to release and where we've gotten to at this point with that. So let me play that video for you.
And this is something Donald Trump has talked about. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So Pam Bondi even released a first pass of the supposed Epstein files to a group of MAGA influencers, in which it sounds like it was more of a photo op for propaganda for them. And of course, they didn't have any details at all beyond what had already been shared from the Biden administration.
James Comer said yesterday that all the Epstein files are missing. They still haven't heard from you.
No, the FBI, they're reviewing. There are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement.
So these were videos of Pam Bondi clearly confirming that there was an Epstein file, an Epstein client list in the past, and that there were many, many videos as well that they had of Epstein engaging with many, many different minors. And yet, and it's not just her, by the way, either. We didn't bother to pull up all the other videos, but there's also videos of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino also kind of doubling down in the past, especially before they came into the administration, about how they were going to go in and root out these files and release them. And also Donald Trump said this too on the Lex Friedman show as well. So now they're saying that there isn't anything. And of course, MAGA world and the press are extremely skeptical.
Your memo and release yesterday on Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Costa, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the latest?
Yeah, sure.
If could I just interrupt for a second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
I see nothing. I know nothing. Oh, I see nothing.
So there you have it. This is they've almost gotten to the point where they're doubling down. There was a meme going around where it shows, Pam Bondi says that Jeffrey Epstein doesn't even exist. I mean, this seems to be where they're going with everything, but it's just absolutely nuts. And whether it be Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, we talked about them. They had both speculated ad nauseum that Epstein didn't kill himself in his jail cell, and then they came on and they didn't produce any evidence up until supposedly this recent drop of the video that is missing a little bit of footage. And they're saying that just trust us. Everything we've seen shows that he didn't kill himself. And I think there's even an image of, I guess it wasn't on this story, but it was on one of the stories where they talk about, I think it was this one here. This was become a meme, people running around with stickers and hats that says Epstein didn't kill himself, right? I mean, that's how big this thing is, right? That everybody is essentially showing their distrust in the system, that this is where we're at. And so like I said, there was a release as well where they claimed they handed them this propaganda tool where a lot of these right-wing influencers who went to the White House, they said they were handed these. They had no time to review them, and then they were shuffled out in front of the cameras. It's actually like some prop to show that the administration was getting ready to release stuff. And this is now even brought the Democrats now to saying, hey, gee, maybe there's something with Trump in these files. So now they're even making an ask to see what's in these things, which it's odd because Biden didn't release anything during the whole time he was in office either, other than I guess what's already been released out there. So
yeah. If you look at that headline, top House Democrats demand release of Epstein files that mention Trump.
Yeah,
not that.
Yeah. Don't mention anybody else. No, just Trump.
Especially Democrats. Only other Republicans or Trump.
Yeah, burn the stuff with Bill Clinton.
Don't have that bill. So, anyway, what are we talking about here? Are we gonna anyone?
Well, it's the scandal of potentially. I mean, this could be the undoing of the Trump presidency. I mean, it seems like there's probably not a lot there because you would have assumed that since the Biden administration didn't release anything. So I mean, that's essentially what Trump what Trump supporters have been saying all this time. Well, the reason Trump is slow walking this has nothing to do with himself being in this, because there are pictures of Jeffrey Epstein hanging out with Trump, in a few places. Yeah. So the idea is, Trump supporters are saying, well, if there was something, the Democrats surely would have released it. But maybe this thing is so dirty, or maybe it's so tied into our intel, deep state stuff, that they don't want to release this stuff, because if they release it, maybe it implicates the U.S. government in a ton of stuff, or maybe it implicates Israel. Who knows? I mean, there could be a lot of different connections here that people have speculated about. So, but to just come out and say after all these promises that, oh, hey, yeah, there is no list. After Pam Bondi said, we've got hundreds of minors.
Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, she could have been hundreds of minors in these videos with Epstein.
Well, it can't be Epstein alone. I mean, come on. No, it can't be Epstein alone. He had people. All kind of people there. Prince Andrew was involved in this. The so-called prince. I don't like calling anybody prince, but he was involved in this thing. The only person that was charged in all of this thing. I mean, okay, Jeffrey Epstein was charged and he supposedly killed himself, which I have doubts about. But the only person who was charged beyond that was his partner, Ghislaine Maxwell. She's in prison and she's not talking. But the point is, if there are all of these people, if Pam Bondi was saying there are all of these hundreds of victims, you can't tell me it's just Epstein was doing all this dirty work. You cannot tell me that. There must be. It leaves you to wonder who is so big in the country. Whether it's Trump himself, I doubt that one. But they sure like hell making like there's some high person up in this administration that is involved with this nonsense. And it's so disappointing to hear this, because everybody was waiting on this day that Trump was going to come into office and release all these files, and everybody is going to face the consequences as a result. All of a sudden now, first they released something, and it was basically, I think 95% of it was already publicly known. There was no big deal. And now, well, they say, oh, they're going to go back and take a second look, and they're going to review and blah, 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 and the best is still to come. Where is it? This is looking more suspicious than ever. Why all of a sudden now there's no client list? Or when we were talking about this client list all along? So I don't know. It looks very suspicious to me.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes,
okay. So you're saying you don't think there's enough testosterone in any one man's body to molest that many kids. Is that what you're saying?
Well, Jeffrey Epstein would have had to be Superman for all that. Seriously.
That's what I mean. Yeah. super
Well,
testosterone.
Tim, I would say, though, there is one answer to that question you have, because, I mean, that is a legit question that, hey, maybe it's just him molesting all these kids by himself. But, there is an issue here, right? Is that she could release the video with these kids' faces, and body parts, I guess, blurred out, if that was
Right.
all it was. And
Yes.
she says she's got thousands of videos, right? So that could easily diffuse the situation if that were the case.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, with this no client listing, so what does she have thousands of videos with just Epstein with these girls? I seriously doubt that. When we know for a fact, at least we know that this so-called Prince Andrew, this fool, who was involved with this. We know for a fact that there's no doubt or any question about that. So who else was involved? You can't tell me it was just Jeffrey Epstein and Prince Andrew showing off their testosterone.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah. Okay, so if you're going to be consistent again, then you're going to have to let this girlfriend of his go, because there obviously wasn't any kind of crime. That's what they're saying. There was no crimes. There's no, it was just Jeffrey Epstein. So,
well, they would have her on one thing, and that is that the girl who committed suicide conveniently, what do they call it? The girl got Hillary. But she was the one who was trafficked to Prince Andrew. So they have her. They have Ghislaine Maxwell at least on that. But I guess they've said that there's all this other stuff, and they're not releasing it. So
where is it?
Yeah, and if I was going to play devil's advocate, I'd say, isn't there any one of these kids who are no longer kids now? Now they're young adults, or who knows? How long this has been going on? Middle-aged adults.
Yeah.
Where are they that are saying, coming up and saying, I had sex with so and so, that and mention whatever famous luminary among our wonderful elite that tell us what we should be doing every day. Where are they? It's just a question. I mean,
there's a conspiratorial theory out there going on that very issue. There's a conspiratorial theory going around that the deep state is very, very busy silencing everybody. Nobody dying as far as we know, but they are still silencing everybody. That is a conspiratorial theory out there. Yes, go ahead.
Well, remember the one girl did commit suicide who had accused Prince Andrew. So, this is just, I mean, it stinks to high heaven, because, I mean, and even if you thought, okay, maybe this was just people puffing stuff up, why would Pam Bondi, after she becomes Attorney General, say she's got 10,000 videos and the documents on her desk? She doesn't have any. I mean, that would be the stupidest thing she could do for herself, because eventually she knows she's going to have to deliver something, right? Which really makes it seem like somebody is pulling her strings, right? I mean, why would anybody come in and do this? And it really makes you wonder if Trump is telling them, hey, I don't care what you said. This is the line now, and they're going along with it. So I just can't understand the moves that Pam Bondi has made. They make zero sense at all for somebody who's gotten to her level, that they would, especially as an attorney general too. It's not like you're just a normal politician. This is an attorney, right? Yeah. So,
and she was the attorney general of Florida, and now she's the attorney general of the United States. And how she could make a blunder like this? This is beyond comprehension.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
So the bottom line is this cannot stand. Okay, it cannot stand. There's something here. These people are making us more suspicious now than ever. This cannot stand. It cannot.
And we'll file this under stinks to high heaven.
Definitely. No doubt about that one.
It makes me wonder too, is how do MAGA people square this? Because, we often, those of us who maybe are MAGA adjacent, that maybe we're, sort of aligned against the Democrats, but we're not necessarily directly Trump supporters, that kind of a thing, right? I mean, we've always been a little bit skeptical of Trump, but hey, he's at least he's better than those Democrats, right? But there's an awful lot of people who almost worship Trump, right? And they will tell you that there is always something that you don't see that's happening behind the scenes that justifies everything he does. And, how this is justified, I have no clue. I mean, to me, if this were somebody who'd gone rogue in your administration, you'd fire them right off the bat. Right?
Immediately, yes.
Yeah, and he hasn't fired Pam Bondi, which to me says that, hey, they're shackled here. They're linked together now, pretty solidly with whatever the hell's going on here. So,
well, full disclosure, I think everybody knows I voted for Donald Trump twice. Actually, I didn't vote for him the first time. Full disclosure, but this thing makes him look bad. I mean, I support most of what he's doing so far, but this particular thing makes him look really, really bad. It looks like there's some kind of cover up going on, and of course, we know this. We started the show with Howard Baker talking about cover-ups. This thing just looks bad, and it stinks to high heavens, Tim. Yes, it does. And I don't know how you square this. There's no square in here. I mean, I voted for Trump, but I don't worship him. Okay, I can't stand the Democrats. Everybody knows that. But this thing is horrible. It is. I mean, this man was just a sick human being that have gotten himself involved with a lot of high-level people. And I'm hoping to God it's not high-level people within the Trump administration. But I don't know what's going on here. But something is wrong. Something is wrong. And I am not into worshiping human beings, okay? I worship God, but not human beings. And this thing just can't stand. It cannot. And this is making Trump look really, really bad. It really does.
Okay. You're watching the clock, right, Jason?
Oh, yeah. But as far as things go, I think if you're a libertarian, this is just another justification for you to tell everybody who's not a libertarian, hey, can you really put this much power centralized in government and trust that it's not going to get abused? Because, I mean, after all, what's very likely here is that, nobody knows how Epstein got all his money, right? It's like a huge amount of money. I mean, he's like buying islands and influencing super high level people. And the speculation is that this was some kind of a honeypot thing, and that there may have been intelligence tied into this, so you get people to do things that they're embarrassed about, and then you can get all kinds of decisions made your way for, whether that be, even potentially for foreign wars and other things like that, right? So this is really what we're talking about. But if you want to hear more, we've reached the end of our time on public access, and you'll have to catch the rest of this online. So go check us out there at knuckleheadsofliberty.com. So anyways, back to the show. So I don't know how much, if you guys had anything more on this, or if you guys want to jump into our second topic now.
Just before, I have one last thing on this thing. The reason why this thing is really stinking to high heavens, there's also there's some video that's available that was made available, but mysteriously there's 1 minute of the video missing. So which raises all kinds of issues.
And so the video that you're talking about is the prison video. So this is something that Dan Bongino had mentioned well over a month ago. So Dan Bongino, by the way, so in case you're not familiar with who he is in our audience, he was formerly a Secret Service agent in the past. Then he went out into the private sector, had his own right-wing podcast that was very successful. And a lot of times he would comment on these things like, what the security is like, for the president and the White House and all this other type of stuff on his show. Well, he was very loud and opinionated about the fact that he didn't think Epstein killed himself. He didn't think there was any way Epstein could have killed himself. But Trump tapped him to come in and assist Kash Patel in the FBI as the number 2 there when he, when Trump got into office. And at that point, suddenly Dan Bongino's whole tune on this changed, as did Kash Patel's as well. Both of those guys speculated big time that Epstein killed himself. Then they said, oh, yeah, we've seen everything we've seen shows us that he didn't kill himself, and this is surely a suicide. And then it was trust us.
Yeah.
There was no evidence that they could show us other than trust us. Right. And one of the things that Dan Bongino said is that he would share the video, but they just had so much review of the video. This is 1 hour of videotape of prison footage. How does it take months to review 1 hour of prison footage? Then when they finally gave us this period of video footage around the time that Epstein was killed or died, then suddenly there's 1 minute missing.
Yeah.
and now Pam Bondi tried to explain at a press conference, I think it was today, that this is normal. that this is just a normal occurrence in all the video that happens there. So now I could believe that government prisons would be so awful that they would have holes in their systems like this. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me, but the fact that it's so convenient around the time Epstein was killed is just yet another flashing red signpost. And of course, I guess they're hot on the trail of that extra minute.
But you see, but the thing is, Jason, that it is true that some of this video, the blank spots and that kind of stuff, it does happen. Okay, I'm not questioning that. But when this thing is happening and is surrounded by all the other crap that we see going on with this whole Epstein investigation that have been going on forever, when you see a minute missing, and on top of that, we have all this other crap. How could you not be suspicious about this?
Yeah,
this is the problem. Because if this was just some normal case and we had a minute missing, I don't think anybody would care. But the fact of the matter is, we have a minute missing in a potentially big scandal, and that to me is it really becomes suspicious under those conditions.
Yeah.
So refresh my memory. How did they say he killed himself? Was it by hanging?
He took a bed sheet and hung himself on a bed, on a double-decker bed or some kind of crap like that.
And then what? Jumped off the bed?
Well, yeah, he kind of leaned forward and choked himself to death, something like that. And he was supposed to have guards. Now, this is why I'm telling you about all these suspicions. He was supposed to have 24. He was supposed to be suicidal. He was supposed to have 24/7 guards. Conveniently, and he's supposed to have videos also. He's supposed to have live people and video. Conveniently, the video wasn't working that night. Conveniently, the guards fell asleep. Conveniently, they were spending their time on Amazon or something, ordering stuff. All these convenient things were happening, and Jeffrey Epstein was able to sneak under the radar and kill himself, and nobody saw it.
Yeah,
I think video, not the guards, not anybody.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the video wasn't working for his cell, but then there's supposed to be a video at least showing the door from the outside of his cell, and that's the one where they're claiming there's 1 minute missing of whether or not somebody could have entered that cell in that 1 minute. But trust them.
Are you talking about the assassin that wrapped the sheet around his neck and cinched it up tight and held it there for about 45 seconds until a guy choked to death? That 1 missing minute.
Well, now all the conspiracies are starting that conceivably. Yeah. Too many coincidences here. That's all. Too many coincidences. Right. And every law enforcement officer will always tell you, when you're seeing so many coincidences, they are not coincidences. Okay, they're not coincidences.
Yeah. But also too, when there's this much goofy evidence that's all in the hands of government. Yeah. I mean, well, you also have to question, maybe he was, given some kind of a drug and they just magically didn't find it in the system. I mean, there could be all kinds of, ways that this could have went down, right? But, we've got the government on the job, and the government seems to be delivering about the way the government usually delivers. Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
Well, let's jump to the next story, and this is one Leon was super interested in, and it's also happening. So this one occurred with the passage of the big beautiful budget bill, and one of the issues is that funding that would have, I guess, that in the past might have gone to Planned Parenthood. They specifically targeted some language in there that would pretty much omit Planned Parenthood from Medicaid funding. And so I'm going to show a video of that really quick to get everybody on top of what the issue is here.
Yesterday, a federal judge temporarily blocked the Trump administration from revoking Medicaid funding for the health group. The provision was included in the president's spending bill, which he signed into law last week on Friday. And according to the judge's ruling, though, the Health and Human Services Department has to take steps to ensure Medicaid funding continues for Planned Parenthood. Well, according to the law, federal Medicaid dollars can't be used to cover abortions except in cases of rape, incest, or risk to the mother's life. Planned Parenthood's lawsuit argues the new provision in that spending bill could impact access to other services like cancer screening.
So the issue here is, can the budget bill cut funding from groups primarily engaged in family planning and reproductive health services that also provides abortion services as well? And of course, this would almost target Planned Parenthood.
In response, we have seen a statement from the White House that says the Trump administration is ending the forced use of federal tax dollars and funding for abortions. It goes on to say, the last line here, a common sense position that the overwhelming majority of Americans agree with. This comes on the heels of a Supreme Court ruling last month allowing the state of South Carolina to block the state's Medicaid program from funding Planned Parenthood.
So, Leon, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can dive us further into this topic.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, abortion in itself is a big topic all by itself, but this particular case raises a bunch of issues that I think are worthy of some discussion. You know, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of the U.S. Constitution states that no money shall be drawn from the Treasury but in consequence of appropriations made by law. So this appropriation was made by law. It was in the one big beautiful bill, as they call it. And Planned Parenthood have now decided to take this case to court. They did, and they won a judgment from a judge that stops the reduction or the elimination of funding to Planned Parenthood. Now, Planned Parenthood, of course, was very happy about it. They said they were grateful that the court acted swiftly to block this unconstitutional, listen to this, unconstitutional law attacking Planned Parenthood providers and patients. So this raises to me two very important issues, and this is what I think we should kind of focus on. Should the government be funding abortions? Is there any constitutional right to that? Should they be funding abortions? The other thing too, that is also germane, that to me is the more important issue, is should a federal judge be able to tell the executive branch of government where and how they should spend taxpayers' money? These things, these funding stuff, as I just described, are passed by law. Congress has the power of the purse. They are passed by law. So does a federal judge have the right to come along and say, no, you're wrong? On what basis? Where does he get the constitutional power to do this? So these are the questions I think we should answer. So Jason, I hand it to you. You could you start us off?
Well, Tim, it sounded like you wanted to jump in on something.
Okay, yes,
I just wanted to clarify. Can a judge stop the executive branch from exercising their right under the law? And it wasn't the executive branch, it was the branch, because later on you said the legislative branch has the power over the purse string.
Yes.
And so I just want to verify you weren't really meaning, say, the executive branch, because it was actually not up to Trump. It was just up to the legislative, correct? Because they control the purse string. So they can cut funding.
It is true. Tim, it is true. They control the purse. I'm not arguing that point. You're right. You're right. And maybe I might have misstated. However, though, it does once it's passed by law, it's the executive branch who's going to disperse the funds. Yeah, once it's passed by law. So the judge is not telling Congress what they kind of do. They're telling the executive branch what they kind of do. They are telling the they are actually telling the executive branch that they must disperse these funds. Is that what they're telling them? Essentially.
Specifically, who they're telling is the Department of Health and Human Services.
Human Services, exactly. Thank you. Which is in the executive branch. Yes.
From Medicaid funds. Yeah.
Okay. Well, can't. I mean, it's not unconstitutional to cut funding. So, that's the judicial's branch. Their job is to make sure laws are constitutional. And in this case, the cutting of funding is totally constitutional. It always has been, always will be. So it's just, this 14 days is just a waste of time, but they're going to be remanded or I don't know, thrown out by I don't know who. But I mean, that's just ludicrous. I mean, there's a lot of weird things going on right now, but that's weird.
Yeah. To me, this seems like judicial. What do you call it? Overreach.
Activism.
Yeah, judicial activism. Yeah. This is absolutely nuts in the sense that, and it's funny too, because Leon, we don't exactly agree on abortion, but I think at least in this case, we both agree that the government shouldn't be funding it.
Absolutely. And at least we found some agreement, Jason. There we go. Yeah. Okay.
But I mean, and to be fair, I don't think the government should be funding probably 90% of the things they fund. so I'm not really picking on abortion, but yeah, but that's so I mean, I don't see there being an issue on the funding part. I mean, there's a lot of things I don't think we should be funding, and then to top it off, I don't think a judge has the ability to go in and tell Congress that you can't stop. I mean, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that you have a right to have somebody pay for your abortion. So true, I don't understand where this is coming from. So, yeah.
I mean, and then of course there's the overriding issue of the separation of powers, because the executive branch is covered by the presidency is covered by Article 2, I believe, and then Congress has its thing to do, and the judicial branch has its thing to do. But what's been happening lately, especially since Trump came into office, is all these rogue judges all over the country are just passing these nationwide injunctions, and imagine they're telling the president he cannot lay off people in the executive branch. They told him that, well, the Supreme Court have now thrown that out. They tell him that they can't deport people. They can't even enforce the law. Okay? That's what a judge is telling the president. He can't deport people. Where he's obeying the law. He's enforcing the law. He's the chief law enforcement officer in the land. So these rogue judges have been putting up all sorts of roadblocks. I mean, the court so far, the court seems to have been throwing most of them out, but it's just ridiculous. Yeah. And yeah, we have gotten good agreement on this one, Jason. I mean, I cannot see how a judge could come along and tell the president of the United States, the executive branch of government, well, in this particular case, Health and Human Services, that you should be funding this and you should be funding that or you should be funding the other. I don't know where to get the authority to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair, I guess one thing I guess I have been a little bit off on in my description here is saying specifically abortion. Technically, like you were saying before, they're not supposed to be funding abortion, period, unless it has something to do with life-saving, type of surgery type of thing. So that's and I think there might be exceptions for rape and stuff like that too. But aside from that, they're not supposed to be funding abortion. I think what Planned Parenthood is upset about is that they claim that they should be able to be funded for other services that they provide. But the way that the bill was written, if you provide abortions, then at least of choice, anyways, then and you provide these other services, you're not going to get any money for those other services. So it's a very targeted cut, but it's not specifically from the Trump administration. This was passed by Congress. So this is not like, just Trump willy-nilly going through with an executive order and saying, I'm not going to give you money because I don't want to. The Congress agreed to it. So
it was passed by Congress, both houses, and it was signed into law by the president. This is the way our republic is supposed to work.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds like we have very little argument on this one.
On this one, yeah, we did.
I thought we were going to get into some arguments about abortion in general, but that wasn't really the issue on this one.
No. But if you want to get in an argument about abortion, I'm good to go. You know I am.
Well, I think maybe we'll go for a record and try and keep a show under an hour this time. So, well, so I guess now is a good time, unless anybody has anything else on this topic. Let's move on to our Knucklehead Noise Patrol then. So, okay. So CNN is up to their normal antics on the race grift. And, Jamal Bowman, sort of, at least in conservative eyes, sort of a disgraced congressman who was lost his seat in Congress. He's now one of these commentators on CNN, a panelist. And so just kind of in the normal race grift of the left, trying to make everything about race, he has said that the N-word now, he is saying, is something that the right uses, and it affects his health and the health of all Black people and leads to obesity and all kinds of stuff like that. So I've got a little video that I wanted to show on that to help explain the issue. I guess we can show the story as well. So here is the New York Post story on that, and this is Jamal Bowman, so you'll recognize him in the video. And here we go with the video.
Sentiment. We are not dealing with that. Your colleagues in the Republican Party do not hold each other accountable when it comes to the racism that comes from the party on a consistent basis.
Congressman, I mean, where are you on?
You can't be calm about this. I'm a Black man in America. The reason why heart disease.
I'm white, I can't comment.
Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the Black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day.
Wow. So according to Jamal Bowman, the N-word packs a lot of calories. Well, let's see what the women from this show on the Oprah Winfrey Network called Black Women Own the Conversation have to say about the issue of obesity in the Black community.
I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with.
Black women, when we do the same diets as white women, we lose less weight and we lose it slower. The racism that you're experiencing and the struggle to make ends meet actually means the diet don't work for you the same.
Wow. So both the N-word and racist diet seem to be at the heart of health problems and obesity in the Black community. I wonder how that translated back in the days of actual racism like slavery. Well, I didn't see too many fat slaves, so I guess that kind of shoots that theory about the N-word and racist diets being the cause of obesity in the Black community. I kind of think it has a little more to do with choices that people make, and I think the movie Me, Myself, and Irene with Jim Carrey kind of captures that pretty well. Let's take a look at that.
Shante Jr., how can you keep eating that crap and never gain weight?
I don't know. Just lucky, I guess.
As they have a way of doing, the years passed somewhat regularly, and the boys, well, they came into their own.
So there you go. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Me, Myself, and Irene, but
no, I didn't. No, I haven't seen that.
That was just one little clip. But I mean, the idea that somehow people are becoming unhealthy, that we're going to turn this into a racism thing too. I mean, it's everything. Somebody gets fat, it's because of racism.
Yeah,
nuts.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't know what you guys thought about that.
Well, these racist grifters that we have. The thing about it. The thing about it. People like Jamal Bowman, whatever the hell his name is. They always on TV talking for the Black man. They're always talking for the Black man, and every time they talk for the Black man, it is nothing about personal choices. It's nothing about personal responsibility. It's always about somebody else causing some problem for the Black man. And yet you heard him in the video. Oh, I'm a Black man in America. Oh, yes, we know that. We know that. You're just a shitty Black man and we don't care about you. But this always is never about the important issues that are facing Black Americans, a good percentage of them, I should say. is that personal choices and personal responsibilities is 95% of what will get you from where you are to some good spot in life. There's no amount of public health. There's no amount of race grifting. There's no amount of Jamal Bowman, Al Sharpton, Ibram X. Kendi. There's no amount of these grifters that will make the inner cities of America healthy, strong, and wealthy. It is not going to happen. And these grifters keep selling this horse shit to people. God help us.
Is Tim frozen?
I don't know.
I guess you just stunned him. Well, yeah. As far as things go, though, I tell you, it's when you make these issues always about race, you're deserving your own community too, because if this guy is saying that, hey, my issues with heart disease and obesity and cancer, that's all about racism. Well, if you start having everybody study racism compared to that, then you're not going to get to the actual issues that are impacting your community. So this is really just a lot of times these things they don't just harm the people he's trying to harm, which is people from other groups. He wants to differentiate and say, oh, everybody else is a terrible person, but people who look like me, right? But he's actually harming his own identity group, and not sending the researchers to the right places to look for the problems that he's worried about here. So
it's just that I am. My wish and my prayer is is that people like Jamal Bowman will stop speaking for people like me. Okay, I don't need these people. Okay, I have a voice of my own, and I'm sure I can speak and defend myself when necessary. I don't need the fools like that to be talking for me, to be telling me, oh God, I should be so distressed because the N-word. If somebody want to use the N-word, that's their damn business. I don't care. All right, I don't care. As long as they ain't come at me and my family, I don't really care. Okay, they want to use it, that's them. That's their business. But I have to make personal choices and take personal responsibility for my actions. That is what I have to do. I have to be accountable for myself and my family. But listen to these fools. You swear we living in the 1950s or maybe earlier.
Yeah, when it's this absolute victim mentality too, it winds up, just driving this poisonous wedge into society. I mean, I don't know if you remembered Colin Kaepernick, but he was the quarterback for the 49ers for a while, and he had a good season, and then when he wound up leaving, or actually he wound up losing his starting job a year after getting him to, I think, the NFC Championship game.
Yes.
But the thing is, instead of trying to improve his skills, he just said, no, this is all about racism. And he started taking a knee. Now, he never took a knee before, when he was doing well. But once he lost his starting job, he started taking a knee and turning everything into about racism. And eventually he went and he made this absurd biography, I think it was on Netflix, about himself, where he compared the NFL draft to a slave market.
Yes, I remember that one. I remember
they
that.
literally had video of all of these black guys in chains, which is just nuts because, you know what? It's not all black guys in the NFL too. I mean, I hate to burst his bubble. He probably thinks it's only about him. But there's a lot of other guys in the NFL too, some Islanders, some white guys, some Hispanic guys. So there's other guys in the NFL too. And it's just, to say this is all about slavery and everything ties to slavery. Well, I think those people who got off those boats several hundred years ago who actually were slaves would be absolutely offended that you're comparing your being able to make millions, tens of millions of dollars playing in the NFL to their situation where they were literally taken from their families. And, a lot of them didn't live a very long life,
Exactly. You know what? If I could have been making that kind of money, call me a slave. making the kind of money in the NFL that these guys make, you gotta call me a slave. I'll go along with that. Please.
Yeah. This is socialist, venomous nonsense, this Marxist venomous nonsense that always seeking to divide us. It's just nuts. And I think that's a lot of the problems with the country we have today is we're so divided, and and a lot of it's just unnecessary. Well, anyways, Leon, I don't know. Did you have anything more you wanted to say about it, or is that a wrap?
That's a wrap for me, man.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Knuckleheads of Liberty. And before our next show, think about what you could be doing in your community. We have guests on all the time who are doing things to advance the cause of liberty. But, it's, each one of them, it starts with somebody just getting up off their butt and figuring out how they're going to, be part of the effort to preserve our liberty. And you can make a difference in your community. So think about that for the next show. And until then, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.